In a world teetering between diplomacy and dominance, when leaders speak, the world listens. But when Donald J. Trump sends a warning, it's not just words. It's a ripple through the corridors of power. A voice that doesn't whisper, but roars across oceans, landing straight at the doorsteps of New Delhi. And at the heart of it all, one man stands unshaken. India's EM, Dr. Jaishankar. Tonight, we don't just witness a message, we step into a moment of global reckoning. Because when Trump says, "My reply will silence Jaishankar," the world holds its breath. Now, let the silence speak, or be broken. Trump's strategic use of public diplomacy as a tool of intimidation, Jankar's calm resilience in the face of international provocation, India-US. Relations under strained geopolitical consequences, the power of narrativing. How global leaders shape perception through language. What silence truly means in the world of international diplomacy. Donald Trump has never been one to shy away from bold, calculated statements, especially when it comes to foreign policy. His recent warning to India isn't just rhetoric. It's a strategic maneuver, a deliberate choice of words meant to unsettle, provoke, and control the narrative. Trump has long understood the power of media, and he's used it as a tool of public diplomacy, turning what might once have been quiet backroom negotiations into full-blown global spectacles. When he declares, "My reply will silence Jaishankar," it's not merely about silencing a man. It's about dominating the conversation, asserting psychological control, and positioning himself as the unchallenged voice in a rapidly shifting global order. This kind of diplomacy isn't traditional. It doesn't rely on policy papers or bilateral agreements whispered behind closed doors. It thrives on spectacle. It's theater played out on television screens, social media, and press conferences. Trump knows that in today's hyper-connected world, perception shapes policy just as much as reality. His warning isn't meant solely for Jaishankar. It's aimed at India's government, its people, and every other nation watching from the sidelines. It's a performance, but one with very real stakes. By issuing such a challenge publicly, Trump corners India into a situation where any reaction becomes part of the show. Respond too strongly, and it escalates. Stay silent, and it may look like submission. It's a trap wrapped in words. But behind this theatrical front lies a deeper strategy. Trump leverages fear, unpredictability, and bravado as diplomatic tools. His approach signals that he sees international relations not as partnerships, but as arenas for dominance. He forces his counterparts to respond to him, to dance to his tempo. This method may alienate traditional allies and unsettle global norms, but it works to his advantage, at least in the short term. It creates headlines. It shifts attention. It disrupts. In warning India so bluntly, Trump is testing how far American influence can still push. He's probing India's limits and seeking to reassert his own relevance on the world stage. It's not just a message, it's a power play. And in Trump's world, the loudest voice often wins. Unless someone else dares to speak louder or smarter. Dr. S. Jaishankar has become a symbol of composed authority in global diplomacy. When faced with bold, even provocative statements like, Trump's warning, his response isn't reactive. It's measured, deliberate, and grounded in strategic thinking. That kind of calm resilience isn't just a personal trait. It's a national asset. In an era where power often shouts, Jaishankar speaks with clarity, not volume. His style is not about counterpunching with fury, but about disarming with reason. He doesn't get pulled into the chaos of political theatrics. Instead, he becomes the contrast to it. Unmoving, unshaken, and unbothered. This calmness is not weakness, it is strength under control. When someone throws down a rhetorical gauntlet, it's meant to provoke a reaction, to dominate the narrative, to spark headlines that echo the image of American boldness. But Jaishankar, through his restraint, reclaims that power. He shifts the focus from confrontation to contemplation. He forces the world to think, not just feel. While others may rush to defend, retaliate, or posture, Jaishankar leans on diplomacy's most powerful asset, credibility. And credibility is not built in the heat of conflict. It's earned through consistency, composure, and an unwavering sense of purpose. His silence, when chosen, is never emptiness. It's a calculated pause. His words, when spoken, are not reactive. They are strategic. This kind of approach frustrates those who operate through disruption. Trump's bold declaration, designed to intimidate or unsettle, meets a wall of intellectual discipline. Jaishankar doesn't mirror the aggression, he neutralizes it by refusing to play into its hands. His interviews, speeches, and statements don't reflect a man looking to make headlines. They reflect a leader focused on India's long-term positioning in the world. In resisting provocation, Jaishankar sends a subtle yet powerful message to both allies and rivals. India does not sway with the storm, it anchors itself in principle. That kind of steadiness redefines the rules of engagement. It elevates diplomacy from the noise of outrage to the clarity of vision. And perhaps that's what unsettles the boldest voices most. Not that they are answered loudly, but that they are met with intelligence, confidence, and unshakable calm. In that stillness, there is a strength that no warning can silence. The relationship between India and the United States has always been layered. Strategic yet cautious, cooperative yet competitive. But when moments of high tension arise, like Trump's pointed warning to India, the underlying fragility of this alliance become mistakably visible. These are not just diplomatic ripples. They are seismic tests of trust, influence, and long-term geopolitical alignment. A Trump's public challenge to silence Jaishankar isn't just about two individuals. It's a symbol of how quickly relations can shift when leadership egos clash with national interests. At stake is not just dialogue. It's the entire framework of India-US engagement. Trump's foreign policy style has often leaned toward transactionalism. What America gains, how fast, and at what cost? That creates a sharp contrast with India's evolving stance on strategic autonomy. While the US has looked to build India as a counterweight to China in the Indo-Pacific, India has resisted becoming a junior partner. This divergence creates moments of discomfort when strong personalities collide. Jaishankar's refusal to play second fiddle and Trump's tendency to dominate diplomatic discourse, result in tension that goes beyond personality. It exposes a deeper geopolitical misalignment. Public statements like Trump's warning erode diplomatic goodwill. They inject uncertainty into a relationship that depends on subtlety, back-channel communication, and mutual respect. India's response, or strategic non-response, sends a signal not only to Washington, but to other global powers like Russia and China. It says India won't be coerced into alliances or silenced into submission. And that positioning reshapes how the world sees India, not as a pawn between superpowers, but as a sovereign force charting its own course. This tension also raises important questions about the future of bilateral cooperation. Defense ties, technology transfer, intelligence sharing. All these depend on political trust. When one leader publicly undermines another's, it injects doubt into those areas of partnership. Even if governments continue to engage diplomatically, these flare-ups leave scars. They create hesitancy. They slow momentum. But in a broader sense, these moments of stress reveal the resilience of diplomacy itself. How both nations navigate this turbulence will define their future standing, not just with each other, but within the global order, whether they clash or converge, recalibrate, or retreat. The world is watching, because when giants argue, the balance of power shifts, and silence becomes louder than words. In international politics, words are never just words. They are weapons, tools, and bridges. The narratives global leaders craft shape how nations are perceived, how policies are received, and how the world responds. When Donald Trump declares that his reply will silence Jaishankar, it's not merely a comment. It's a narrative being built, a perception being molded. And in today's world, perception often outpaces reality. Leaders don't just govern with power, they govern with stories. Stories that define heroes and adversaries, victories and betrayals. And the one who controls the narrative often controls the momentum of international discourse. Trump is a master of this narrative building. His language is intentionally provocative, designed to draw attention, spark reactions, and dominate headlines. Whether or not the content holds strategic depth, the delivery ensures that the conversation revolves around him. That is the essence of narrative power. It's not about who's right. It's about who's remembered. In challenging Jaishankar so directly, Trump is shaping a tale of confrontation. The bold American leader versus the measured Indian diplomat. But Jaishankar, too, understands the weight of words. His style is the antithesis of subtle, restrained, but razor sharp. And in that trash lies a compelling counter-narrative. Where Trump uses the megaphone, Jaishankar uses precision. Each word he utters is chosen, calculated, and timed for maximum strategic effect. In international forums, interviews, and press briefings, Jaishankar doesn't engage in verbal theatrics. Instead, he reframes the conversation. He shifts focus from confrontation to context, from provocation to policy. In doing so, he disrupts the narrative Trump tries to set, not with louder words, but with smarter ones. This battle of narratives doesn't just influence politicians. It shapes public opinion, media coverage, and global perception. When two world figures clash rhetorically, The narrative that survives becomes part of diplomatic memory. It becomes the story told in classrooms, think tanks, and foreign ministries. And so, this isn't just about a warning. It's about which voice defines the moment. In that sense, diplomacy today is no longer confined to treaties and backdoor negotiations. It's a theater of influence where every word is currency and every statement is strategy. Trump and Jaishankar may operate differently, but both understand this truthing: in global politics, narratives don't fade. They echo, and the world listens to the one who tells it better. In diplomacy, silence is never empty. It is often louder than the words spoken in press conferences or shouted across podiums. When Donald Trump declared that his reply would silence Jaishankar, he underestimated the power of intentional silence in global affairs. Silence in the right hands is not weakness, it's control. It's the ability to resist provocation, to withhold reaction, and to let others reveal more through their noise. In the world of diplomacy, silence can be a strategic pause, a moment of composure, or a refusal to legitimize reckless rhetoric. It can speak volumes about a nation's confidence and clarity of purpose. Dr. Jaishankar is a master of that kind of silence. When faced with loud declarations, he doesn't react for applause. He responds with timing, and sometimes with no response at all. That silence unsettles. It refuses to validate the provocation. It leaves space for reflection rather than escalation. When a leader chooses not to answer a challenge immediately, it shifts the burden of proof. It forces the aggressor to continue talking, to overextend, and eventually to expose the insecurity behind the bluster. That's the power of well-placed silence. It turns the volume back on the speaker. Trump's warning may have captured headlines, but silence, when employed with purpose, shapes legacies. It suggests a calm confidence rooted in strategy, not showmanship. While Trump speaks to disrupt, Jaishankar listens to understand, to analyze, and to strike at the right moment. In that restraint lies evolving diplomatic identity. Assertive, but not reactive, bold, but not loud. And that identity becomes clearer when silence is chosen over spectacle. In a global arena flooded with noise, where every world leader competes for attention, silence becomes a rare kind of authority. It draws curiosity. It commands respect. It implies that a nation does not need to shout to be heard. That kind of silence is not a void. It is filled with intent. It is the silence of a chess player before the final move, the pause before a calculated strike, the stillness of a nation too sure of its strength to be shaken by theatrics. In the end, the question isn't whether Trump's words can silence Jaishankar. It's whether Jaishankar's silence speaks more powerfully than Trump's threats ever could. And so, as the dust settles on this war of words, we're left with more than just headlines. We're left with a moment that reveals the true nature of global power. It is not always the loudest voice that leads. It is not always the boldest statement that wins. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in clarity, in silence that echoes louder than any threat. Trump's warning may have stirred the waters, but Jaishankar's steadiness held the line. This isn't just a clash between two leaders. it's a reflection of two visions for how the world should engage in. One that disrupts and one that withstands. In a time when diplomacy is tested by ego, emotion, and unpredictability, India stands tall. Not by matching noise with noise, but by choosing poise over provocation. That choice sends a message far beyond Washington or New Delhi. It tells the world that the future belongs who think before they speak, who act with purpose, and who understand that true leadership doesn't demand silence. It commands respect. This moment may pass, but the lessons remain. Power is not proven through threats. It is proven through presence. And in that quiet, unwavering presence, India has already spoken.